Hi, everybody. I'm currently away at a basketball game, but that does not prevent me from being here today. I did my part on how the African American culture was incorporated into Catholicism. The church we chose to attend was St. Peter Claver. It's the African American church, African American Catholic church, and it was named for a man who did good works for African Americans. When it was founded, there was no representation of Catholicism in and the African culture in Catholicism. It wasn't accepted. It was, of course, there are churches that were there because the church that we went to was founded in 1852, but there wasn't, like, they didn't have no good reputation, not reputation, what I want to say, any clout. So it wasn't until the Second Vatican Council that was headed by Pope John the 23rd, in which this marked a major revolution in, I don't want to say revolution, but the relationship between non-Christian religions and the Catholic religions became stronger. And yeah. The initial idea of Catholicism was it's not abandoned, but it was like reformed. The initial idea is that the African cultures, their ancestral religions were demonic and evil, but through the many Africans wanted to be Catholic, but was torn between choosing their ancestral culture and religion and the new religion that they learned to love. So many of them during the day they would practice Catholicism, they would go to mass, they would pray, but at night they would do their ancestral duties. Yeah. So, and this was a big question: how can you be Catholic as well as African? So that's why in 1965, October of 1965, the Second Vatican Council declared Nostra Aetate, headed by Pope John the 23rd. It declared that they would start respecting other religions because not all of them are evil, and it invited faith to charity, dialogue, and collaboration towards the progress of moral, social, cultural values, but with prudence. See, when they say but with prudence, it means like stuff like witchcraft and stuff. It still is not accepted in Catholicism, even though it is in the African culture. And like that was a big deal. The effect it had on the African Catholics is that they now could use African musical instruments in church, celebrate mass in their own language, and sing and translate the Bible in African languages. This was a very big deal because everything was in Latin at the time, and many people didn't speak Latin, so that was also like a bridge, a cultural bridge that the Second Vatican Declaration helped bridge that gap between the languages. Another Reformation was declared to the Nostra Aetate, where the church would be more of like a home to Africans, and the Africans would be more at home in church. This was a special Reformation called a synod, which is like a small council meeting. And at this time, like they didn't have before during the Nostra Aetate, they didn't have African representation in the Catholic Church. By the time the synod came about, there was African representation. It's actually headed by an African bishop, African cardinal named Cardinal Francis Arisi under John Pope II. And he declared that the church would be more of a home, and the Africans would be more at home in church. By this declaration, this became under this declaration, that's when they got rid of they made clear that they did not accept witchcraft and castration of women. Those were really like the main 2 points. There were other things that were stressed as well, but those were the 2 main points. Pope John Paul actually took 15 pastoral trips to Africa during this time. The synod stressed the same things as the Second Vatican did, which was interculturation, basically implanting the message, the gospel, into the people of Africa or African descent. And I forgot to mention the Second Vatican Council also encouraged to look into the aspects of African culture that so the church could be, how do I want to say this? So the church could be knowledgeable of the cultures. So they would look into the ritual dances and the mating rituals and everything to see how good it was. Like, is it bad? Is it necessarily evil, or is it necessarily good? And certain things that they could possibly incorporate. But in the synod or the Reformation, we're gonna call it the Reformation of the Second Vatican Council, there was the synod really stressed dialogue, like to talk about these situations, to talk about interculturation within the message of the gospel, and through this dialogue they came up with a solution, and that was to get rid of witchcraft and other evil rites, with the degradation of women or castration. So, and it's a famous quote by St. Paul II, and it says, "A faith that does not become culture is not fully accepted in its entirety throughout, not faithfully lived." So that basically said that they had to basically, they had to incorporate the African culture in order to keep these lives in Catholicism. Okay, I want to thank you for your time. I'm currently choking. Probably need some water. Thank you for your time today, and I'll leave you to the rest of my group.